Hello, everyone, and welcome to the EVN Disrupt podcast. My name is Nejdat Zaturyan. I'm the editor of the creative tech section here at EVN Report. This week, we are continuing our series of podcasts from the Science and Technology Convergence Conference. We were happy to be the media partner of the STC conference, which was organized by SmartGate's Catalyst Foundation, with the support of the European Union and the GIZ Foundation. My guest today is Leonid Kirakosyan, a partner at McKinsey. Leonid, thank you so much for joining us today and offering your time.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start with a little bit of your background. Tell us what exactly it is you do at McKinsey.
Yeah, look, while I was born in Armenia, I actually spent most of my life in Russia. And now I'm technically based in Zurich, but I'm responsible for all things Armenia at McKinsey. So working with organizations locally to help them grow and branch out. Personally, I specialize in digital transformation, digital business building, financial services and the like. But then as more of a country partner, my role here is more to bring expertise from all over the world to whoever needs it in Armenia.
Right.
Not just do things myself.
For those of our listeners who might not know, can you just explain a little bit about what it exactly is that McKinsey does and what their interest is in markets like Armenia's?
Yeah, so McKinsey is a global consulting firm, about 100 years old. We are in more than 100 countries globally, and things we do is basically driving change for good for major organizations, private, public, social sector. The way we work is, there's this myth that consultants, all they do is they do fancy PowerPoints. Frankly, what we do most of the time is we do major transformations for our clients. So we spend a year, 2, 3, or 5 within an organization to actually change the way they operate. If I can just give you a couple of examples, we can work with the whole country, serve the prime minister or the president to deliver on their change agenda, create it and then deliver. Or we can, transform a bank from a legacy old school bank to a more modern, agile bank that delivers the outcomes for the bank and for the clients.
So what is it that you guys do in Armenia? What is McKinsey's interest in Armenia?
So frankly, I don't have a boss. I'm as a partner, I'm my own boss, and I can do whatever I prefer to do with certain guardrails and limits. So I have my interests. I'm passionate about improving the lives of Armenians and turbocharging the growth in the country. So here I'm talking to, I cannot disclose names, but some government institutions and private sector companies to help them do better and prepare for what's coming.
Right. So you said that one of the areas that you specialize in is digital transformation. Can you tell us what that is and what the direction should look like for Armenia's path for working on digital transformation?
Yeah, look, so what it typically looks like is that, companies of all sizes and in all industries operate in their own ways. Say a grocery retailer, they buy some tomatoes, bring it to a distribution center and then sell it in retail. Or a bank, they do lending and they do deposit taking. But then if you sort of infuse some digital into it, the way it works changes both for the company and for its clients. The way it typically works is that you change how the company works from what it used to be, and it's different for different organizations, to a product-centric organization to target what the client wants. Say I did a digital transformation of a grocery retailer, not in Armenia though. So the way it works is that, look, here's what the customer needs. They have this need to buy grocery for a week or daily or for a month long.
Right.
How do we satisfy these groups of needs? For some of them, we actually need delivery. For some, we need stores. So we sort of rethink the whole organizations and how they serve their clients with digital in mind. That's sort of the overarching story of what a digital transformation is.
Right.
Then if we speak about Armenia, I feel like a lot of it revolves around Armenians' world in the digital ecosystem. Look, we can be this quote unquote buddy shop where our developers are pretty good and they're cheaper than they are in the Silicon Valley. So if you're an Armenian founder who's doing a business in Silicon Valley, you can have quite a few of your developers and data scientists in Armenia. And that's good for you, and that's good for Armenia, and that's good for the people of Armenia because they spend their money locally. I think we can still do much more as a country, where we are the center of this innovation. But the business is driven from Armenia, not driven from elsewhere, and then Armenia is a nice to have and can actually be replaced with Vietnam or whatever that is. So I feel like the challenge would be to build an ecosystem here for global entrepreneurs to run their business out of Armenia, for Armenia and for bigger markets elsewhere. But then this will bring quite a few benefits. Things like, look, they'll create much more supply of talent here because they can actually recruit globally. they will have Armenia play a bigger role in the world, which enhances security, as will be on the radar of major corporations and governments. This creates this virtuous cycle in the economy where these people spend more money, they consume more services, more companies start to serve these bigger companies. So it actually enhances how we operate economically. So I feel like that would be our next step. And now is a good time to approach it more systemically, not just, okay, we have a bunch of people come in, why don't they call a minister and we figure out their problems? Rather, we set it up as a system where whoever wants to run a global business out of Armenia, they have some unique value proposition from Armenia
that other countries don't have.
Yes. And also, I think we need to have something unique, and we need to manage the sort of the table stakes. Like, people want to send their kids to schools. Some of them want international schools. Some of them, want a good medical clinic. So it's not like a government can do it or one private sector player can do it. It's a complex effort to coordinate it and bring it to Armenia.
What can be something that Armenia offers that is unique from other countries? So you said something that really is a differentiator for Armenia and really creates a value proposition for global companies. What can that thing be?
Yeah, look, if I think about it, frankly speaking, for a lot of people in this world, Armenia is a very nice place to be in terms of climate, people, culture. So we have a lot of what it takes, but then the differentiator is going to be some critical, insightful things that I don't necessarily have off my head. But like if you look at Switzerland, they have this canton Zug where all of the crypto businesses are. So it's like the crypto capital of the world. And let me ask you, why cannot Armenia be a better crypto capital of the world? It might take some regulatory change, might take some targeted effort to attract this investment, but this can be it. Or maybe we do image processing if we have good research institutions in that space. So we can start small and then branch from it, because businesses, especially tech businesses, tend to stick to each other and feed off of each other. So I don't have a perfect silver bullet that I would give you, but then it's something to think about and work on and build on what we already have. Companies like PixArt and Service Titan and many, many others.
So if you're taking, let's say, crypto or image processing or computer vision or something, would it be mainly having just a high number of really specialized people in those fields and universities that really specialize in those fields that would make it attractive? Or
look, I think if you want to make it happen, you need several things. Number one is the funds. So if you have specialized VC funds who know this business, who can bring expertise and add value here, that's number one. Number two is talent. And by talent, I don't just mean the technical talent who can deliver it, but also the executives and the founders and many other people who can make it happen. And third, it's the regulatory and administrative environment that glues it all together. So I feel like whether we choose to start with a particular vertical in the tech space, or we go more broader and say, look, we have this inflow of digital talent. Why don't we make it better than Kazakhstan and Serbia? And we already have quite enough. And then we build from there. I don't know the right recipe.
Yeah.
What I know is that it's best if we create this recipe pretty fast, as the current moment gives us an opportunity and a challenge.
Define the current moment. What is it exactly about this moment that is such a pinnacle point in history for us?
Yeah, I think we are in the middle of a lot of geopolitical tensions. Some of them affecting us positively, some of them are a big risk, and they're all heavily interlinked. So obviously we have a large inflow of talent that can treat Armenia as a temporary place to hide out, or they can actually, fall in love with Armenia,
turn into a home.
Create workspace and more businesses in Armenia for each other and for Armenians. And whether they do it, we don't know. And then we have obviously a security challenge that will be a big factor in the decisions of these people, but also these people are contributing to how this situation will evolve. So I feel like there's a smart game Armenia can play, leveraging everything that's going on to get out of this as a winner. I'm obviously not into geopolitics, more into business. But then, bringing these people together and having them do stuff and not, wait and be looking at whether they move to Dubai or Serbia next. That's our challenge. And the way we treat it is we can do some things that are, changing the system, changing how we operate. We can do some one-off things like get this company onboard it into Armenia, give them some special treatment. We can also send signals. Look, if we create a working group, we can create a response team. We can, announce that we are here to help these people. In no way threatening or challenging anybody, but just being a bit of a humanitarian effort. And then that is also a good signal that has people treat Armenia differently as well.
Right. Earlier you spoke about the importance of developing not just engineering and technical talent, but also exec level and non-tech roles.
Yeah.
So one thing that I often hear is we won't get that exec level talent until there's really the first wave of Armenian startup exits, and people who have been receiving that really valuable product and executive level experience will then sort of be free to go on and build their own companies or join earlier stage startups. Is there anything we can do in the meantime to play a positive role in developing that talent that is needed at the exec level?
Yeah, I think frankly there are markets that went this startup exits way and the tech champions way, but there are also markets that went the way of industry champions. Say, look, I don't know if it's a great example or a good example. In Russia, a lot of the digital impulse came from Sberbank, which was a huge legacy bank, and then it became the most digitally advanced bank in the region and maybe globally. And then they sourced a lot of talent and the executives to other industries, to other banks, to the tech companies. They were this local champion from which a lot of things branched out.
Right.
So for Armenia, it doesn't have to be, I don't know, Intent AI, doing a good exit and doing well. It can be Ameria Bank, or it can be Archin Bank, or it can be Team Telecom Armenia, or it can be, again, if you look at places like Estonia and Singapore, it could be actually a city government that does good services for those living in the city that can be the champion of this.
Like a good former mayor or like a council person or something, you mean?
Yeah, look, we see some mayors globally that are the digital champions of their countries.
Mm-hmm. Are there any industries in Armenia outside of tech that you see that could be a good source for that?
Absolutely.
talent?
I think banking, extremely promising, very competitive, a lot of talented people. It's just a dynamic industry here.
Yeah.
Telecom often is a place where a lot of tech talent thrives, a lot of innovation comes from. Then what also happens quite often is the intersection of industries. When there is an entrepreneur with the resources, they can bring organizations together. And then you see something popping up from a partnership between a bank and a grocery retailer or something like this. So I think we have a lot of potential there. And a big thing we should never forget about is our diaspora, where a lot of things can come from. Frankly, if the environment here is good and if they see a good opportunity, and whether it's the system that works or professional treatment for a certain company or an individual, we can actually bring some amazing people here from the diaspora. And I see actually, quite often I meet some extremely talented and accomplished Armenians who are here to help, to mentor companies. But they are, they have one of their feet, the 2 feet here and the other back home, wherever they are.
Right.
So a lot can be done. It's just how do we bring it about is the challenge.
Given that it's probably not realistic to repatriate very large amounts of diasporans to Armenia, what's the most effective way to leverage that resource, and while they have one foot in the US or wherever they are and one foot in Armenia, use that to enhance the ecosystem in Armenia?
Yeah, just being very practical. A small idea, I don't know to what extent this is doable. Look, if we have a group of private sector businessmen, say, look, we are starting this new initiative where we create a council of accomplished Armenians outside of Armenia, and we are the council on the other side. And then we do sort of one-to-one mentor matching, where, say, whether we introduce this person to the board or they're just a mentor to us to contribute to Armenia, whatever that is not that important. But for example, we have Andrea Andonian, who is a senior partner emeritus at McKinsey, chairman of FAST, super interested in doing things in Armenia. I don't know if we ever asked him to mentor any of the companies in Armenia on their path forward. Maybe I don't know, maybe he's doing it. But if we sort of bring structure on the side of Armenia and also on the side of the diaspora to connect these people and bring about change, and that is just one small idea that frankly can be done by the government, can be done by any group of Armenians. And I think that both sides will love to participate in.
Right. Let's speak a little bit about economic impact that the tech sector can have. I think the number officially for the tech sector, which includes tech and manufacturing as a percentage of GDP, is under 3. But there's a lot of hype around the tech sector that doesn't really match the actual economic impact. What can we do so that the tech sector has a much larger impact on Armenia's economy in the way that maybe Estonia's, let's say, has?
Yeah. Look, so if you look at the global GDP, tech sector is anywhere from 5 to 15% global GDP, depending on what you include in tech.
Right.
So it seems like we are underperforming the global average, whereas, looking at our position geographically with our borders, we should actually rely more on tech than we rely on trade and manufacturing and agriculture and things like that. So I feel like we're clearly not where we want to be on this side. Then how do we change it? I feel like, look, just being very practical, we have a lot of talent here that is going to be looking for jobs, and we're going to have some entrepreneurs here who are also looking to for new business opportunities. How do we sort of bring these people together and give the entrepreneurs the impetus to start companies and create the workspace for these other people? How do we create enough for them to stay here for the long term? That would be the challenge. Again, I don't think there is one thing that we can do that will suddenly, give us 30% of GDP from tech. It's going to be many little things, and as I spoke, it will take medical clinics, residential real estate, commercial real estate, and sometimes we'll see bottlenecks. And if we just being systematic about it, we take a focus group of 5 entrepreneurs who came here. What's lacking for you? They'll tell you residential real estate. Then we take a concentrated effort to bring somebody, be it from the diaspora or just private investors or development institutions, saying like, look, doing this investment into real estate in Armenia has an incredible multiple to GDP because now it's a blocker to everything else.
Right.
And we know what these blockers are, frankly. I mean, I know qualitatively from having spoken to tens of people who've moved here. I can tell you it's education, it's medical services, it's
like
real
access
estate.
to education for their kids, you mean?
Yeah. It's flight connections. I mean, some of these things take months and years to fix. Well, some others, frankly, I don't know if it's that hard.
Is real estate one of the things that's not that hard?
No, I think real estate, frankly, takes a lot of time and takes a lot of convincing to the investors that it's going to be secure and the property rights and and the regulation. So I think this is not the quickest thing to fix. But then I don't know. I think flight connections are not probably that hard.
Yeah. Would that be more direct flights from large diaspora communities like Paris and Toronto, Montreal, Los Angeles?
And just to sort of make sure I'm understood correctly, when I say not hard, I don't mean that it's easy.
Right. It's just doable.
There's a lot of problems around it. And I know a lot of people have been working hard for more than 10 years to make it happen. It's just that now the environment is a bit different. And did we bring the right business case to the airlines of the world to explain to them how the situation is changing in Armenia, what's in it for them, work with the regulators across the globe to bring about this change? I'm not saying it's easy. It's easier than real estate, which frankly is incredibly hard. Right. But if we just, it's nice to talk to one McKinsey partner about it, but to bring about 15 or 20 or 5 or whatever the number is, businessmen, and talk to them and ask them what is it that they need, and just be very rigorous about executing. That's going to be a very important thing. And then also, frankly, being open to them, saying, we hear you. Here is how we're tackling your problem. Things will be solved. Some impact will happen in 6 months. Yeah. Some more in 4 years. But I'm here for you.
Right.
And that's an important signal for a lot of the businessmen who have their kids and families and they don't want to move places every couple of years. And if they don't have enough trust and transparency, that's already a problem. So a lot of it is communication and working with them.
So one of the things I often hear is, in order for the tech sector to also have a bigger impact on the economy, it needs to boost Armenian economic productivity. And in order to do that, tech companies in Armenia need to solve problems for the local market as well. Like right now, it can be argued that most Armenian tech companies are really solving problems for understandable reasons for much larger markets like the US and Europe. For instance, let's take agriculture, right? Agriculture is a fairly big part of Armenia's economy. We have some agro-tech startups in Armenia, but they are largely for much larger markets like the US and such. And the problems in Armenia are often different because there aren't these massive crop fields to fly drones and stuff over. What do we have to do to incentivize tech companies in Armenia to build for the local market? Or how do we develop that ecosystem?
Look, I think it's a big challenge. So what I'm seeing is that, look, I have an entrepreneur here in Armenia willing to do something, and they're competing for talent with the likes of Pixart and Ameria Bank. And frankly, there's not enough talent for it to be anywhere near as cheap as it needs to be. So what the typical entrepreneur is facing, the market is small. If they do something for Armenia, they're going to spend a lot of money on product and then not get enough because it's not reach the country, not reach a country, not big enough. So if I were them, I would do what they're doing. I would serve the global market. Is it a problem though? I don't know. Because still, if they have their development teams here locally, if that's where they are competitive, I think we should be proud and let them do their thing. Obviously, some of them will want to experiment and try new products locally. Some others will sort of branch out and leave their companies and do something local as they see local problems. I don't think we can be too prescriptive here. We have this reality of, you can call it a resource course of the diaspora and local development talent. It's all right. I think we should be proud of what we have and build on what we have rather than sort of regulate this out.
So you don't think maybe the government has a role to play to incentivize companies to build for the local market through grants and funding or things like that?
Look, I think grants and funding are great. And if we bring some VC funds, match their investments, that's obviously a good thing.
Yeah.
One thing we should definitely not be doing is protectionism. Saying like you cannot serve the global market if you don't do something in Armenia.
Of course, yeah.
And then there are many things that are between these two extremes of helping and regulating this out.
Right.
So it's almost too risky to even start.
Right. Another thing we were speaking about earlier is turning Armenia into, I think the way you phrased it is not just a place where the companies are sort of locally serving the outside, but really building their entire businesses here. Yeah. Can you expand on that a little bit and speak about why that's so important?
Look, again, I think as I spoke, there are many roles that countries can play in the global ecosystem. Some of them are service centers,
right?
Say India. Some of them are, outsourcing hubs for digital talent. Also, to an extent, India, but also Vietnam. Some of them are manufacturing hubs like Taiwan and Vietnam. Some of them are innovation places like Israel or the Silicon Valley. And
how do you evaluate Armenia?
I don't think we can say, none of these countries, to be fair, are exactly what I called them. Right. They are a combination of different factors. But I think it seems to me like we are way more of an outsourcing center for cheaper, talented labor. Not like cheap. It's not call centers that we have here, but we have developers and we have some smaller R&D centers that are maybe not doing the most critical part of the value chain, but they're doing something important for these global companies. But few are run from Armenia. And then what it means is that few of them book revenues in Armenia.
Right.
Few of them have their executives in Armenia that create a lot of demand. Few of them actually visit Armenia all that often to make sure things happen. Few of them then know the local market to do something on the local market. To them, it's just, we have 15 offices globally, and then we keep some of our developers there. So if you look at McKinsey, we have offices everywhere, but we also have service hubs, and some of them are in Costa Rica or Poland or India. And some are offices where mostly consultants are there because it's expensive, say New York. Look, I'd prefer Yerevan to be New York, just in terms of what an impact it brings in terms of economic demand, people spending this money in the country, than other people serving these people who have the money. I think it's just a much bigger multiplier on GDP if we are the innovation hub versus we are the service hub.
Right. When you speak about companies are run from the New Yorks of the world, but they have presence in Armenia, are you speaking about large multinational corporations like, let's say, the EPOMs of the world that have presence here? Or do you also mean Armenian startups that are Armenian?
All of them. Yeah, frankly, all of them.
So even like, without naming names, like Armenian companies that have been started in Armenia, but their
then moved
sales
elsewhere
and stuff headquarters are in the US, you consider those to be?
Yeah, I don't think we need to categorize them into black and white or green and red.
Yeah, it's a little bit tough, right?
But frankly, I would love to have some headquarters in Armenia. If you think about it, our GDP is $12 billion US. And that wouldn't be a Fortune 500 company, I assume.
Right.
So if we have a major global company run out of Armenia, and then, I don't know, a couple of thousands of their employees, very well paid, globally competitive, spending their money, and then some local startups also serving this global company, I think is a different story.
Right. So when an Armenian startup starts and they keep their engineers here, but their sales and a lot of their execs and stuff are in California or somewhere else, that's detrimental to the economic impact that the company can have, you're saying?
Yeah, I don't think it's detrimental. We still should be proud, and it's still a lot of demand for us, and it's still a lot of career development for these people.
Right.
It's just we can do more. And I had a conversation recently with a startup here in Armenia, which was founded by some of the people who left one of the development hubs of these major global companies. And what they do, they're like, good, we have amazing technology. We have no idea how to scale and do sales and do product management and do all of the other stuff. So they know the tech, but they don't know the broader digital space. And they just don't have it because it was always done from elsewhere. They haven't had exposure to it. And frankly, when I saw it, I was having breakfast with this founder. I was like, oh my God, like this is just wow.
Yeah. Just the scale of the problem.
Yeah. And they're like, who do you think we should talk to?
Yeah.
We're a startup that wants to scale. I was like, I don't have an idea in Armenia. I can connect you to people in Silicon Valley.
Right.
And that's what I did.
Right. So the biggest thing we're missing out on from not having those companies run from Armenia is the access to that broader talent, that exec level talent and the non-technical
talent. If you think about it, there's tech talent, which is people writing lines of code, and there's digital talent. And digital talent is also product managers, salespeople, and customer success managers. And there's a lot of different areas of expertise that we're not as strong at as we can be.
So this is one of those conversations I entered in not knowing much about and learned a lot from. So I feel like I need to ask, is there anything I should have asked that I didn't? What should we have touched on?
Look, I wouldn't say I'm the biggest expert in the world into the Armenian market. So I don't think I have much more to say. I'll be happy to bring this about, what I was talking about, making Armenia a hub for global entrepreneurs. I frankly I have some practical ideas on where to start, but I don't have a good area where I can press a button and things start moving. Yeah. So if there is anybody as enthusiastic about it as I am, I'd love to then
speak with them. Yeah.
And bring it about, as much as I love speaking, I love doing much more.
Right. And my last question, is there anything or a couple of things that you hope we focus on in the next 5 to 10 years for growth in Armenia?
I don't know. I don't think I have a
silver bullet.
Yeah, silver bullet or a good enough view. I think, frankly, Armenia is doing very, very well. And the way we have managed through this year and, COVID and war at the same time, it's been tough several years and it will be. And I feel like Armenia is on this resilient growth path.
Yeah.
We know how to grow and be resilient. And it actually amazes me how when I talk to people, I'm like, oh, why don't we do a project with McKinsey? But then I realize with the current situation, they might not be as keen. And they're like, yeah, sure, we should just go. Because this is how the country operates. And I think we should be extremely proud of this mindset and this operating model and not just talk about, what needs to be fixed.
Right.
Let's just celebrate some of the things that were done extremely well in the past few years.
Yeah.
In the private and the public sector and the social sector as well.
Leonid, thank you so much for joining us today. I personally learned a lot from it, and I think our listeners will as well. I hope you'll join us again in the future to speak about the further developments. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah. My pleasure.